I've said time and time again that Florida has the best running back duo in the SEC and thus the country, because we all know the SEC is the best conference in college football. But a lot of people are just not believing it. So you're about to not only find out why, but probably learn something you didn't realize. Let's get into it. So, why are Florida's running backs so underrated? When discussing run games for 2023, the media has been awfully quiet about Florida. Why are we so underrated? On paper, Florida is one of the best running back duos in the country, one of the deepest running back rooms in college football. Any of our top three running backs honestly could start at any Power Five program in the country. We returned Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, who were incredibly potent during the 2022 season. Plus, we are adding Cam Carroll, who is a multi-year starter for Tulane. In 2022, Florida was pretty darn good rushing the ball. They were fourth in the SEC in rush yards per game. They averaged just over 200 yards, and they were tied for second in the SEC in yards per rush with 5.5 yards per carry. And Florida had one of the top offensive lines in the SEC in 2022, which did support our really strong run game. While we've had key departures this offseason, most notably Osiris Torrance, Billy Napier has stated that we have significantly more quality depth this season at offensive line. And honestly, that's something that we have heard from a lot of our inside sources that go to practice. This offensive line is deep. I don't think that offensive line will ever be a weakness in this current regime because of Rob Stale and Darnell Stapleton. They are both elite offensive line coaches. Florida is going to have some star offensive linemen this upcoming season. That's going to include more than likely Austin Barber, Micah Mazuka, and Kingsley Iguakin. Florida is also likely going to shift to an old school ground and pound style offense. There's going to be a higher rush volume, and they're going to ask Graham Mertz to be an efficient game manager. How many times have we said that on this channel? Graham Mertz is not going to be asked to single-handedly win football games. He is just going to be asked not to lose them. I think Florida's going to have a similar brand of football to Michigan. They're going to have an efficient offense with an emphasis on the run game. And I think they're going to have a really strong, stout defensive line. There are only 4 Power 5 schools that are returning 2 running backs with over 100 carries, 700 yards, and over 5 yards per carry on average. That's Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, and Florida. The Gators are going to have a very balanced and honestly diverse running back room between Johnson, Etienne, and Cam Carroll. Each can play at a high level, but their strengths complement each other really nicely. More than likely, all 3 are going to have even workloads. At the very least, Johnson and Etienne are going to have pretty equal workloads. And it's going to depend on the situation. But easily, we can expect each running back to get 100 plus carries this season. And before we get into the specific guys in this room, I want to hear from all of you. Let me know what you guys think about this running back room. Where do you think UF ranks in the SEC and in the country? Hit the comments and let me know. All right, so let's talk about the guys that we have returning first. Montrell Johnson is a redshirt sophomore. He's a between the tackles type of runner. He can run downhill and bulldoze players. He is a great red zone running back. He is a bruiser. And where did he come from? Well, he followed Napier from Louisiana. There was a lot of skeptics about the number of players that Napier brought with him from Louisiana before last season started. But honestly, Johnson and Torrance silenced Napier critics. He is a great evaluator of talent, and Johnson has just crushed it in the SEC last season. And I think there's a lot of people that thought, there's no way a running back from Louisiana is going to have that kind of impact in the SEC. And he did. The next running back who, we got to see glimpses of just electric speed from last year is Trevor Etienne. He is a true sophomore, and he's more of a perimeter back, okay? He can run you over, but he is a lot more deadly in open space. Word is that this lightning bolt got significantly faster this offseason. And I think that we can expect that to translate into even more explosive runs for the Gators. He has track speed, all right? That means he's explosive and he's shifty. He had a breakout season as a freshman in 2022. And honestly, I think he's probably the face of Florida football right now. He's maybe the most recognizable player. He's going to continue to have a huge impact in the 2023 season. Somebody that I'm really excited to see in orange and blue, though, is Cam Carroll. And I think that Florida is going to use him as a third down back and maybe as a receiving back. He can catch short passage just as efficiently as he can rush. So look for him on screens, checkdowns, and short plays over the middle. He is an extremely efficient pass catcher. He averaged 12.3 yards per catch last season. He is highly sought after running back transfer out of Tulane. He committed to UF knowing he was going to be third string. I remember when we were talking about options in the transfer portal on this channel, we said, hey, Cam Carroll would be a huge pickup, but we don't know if he'll want to go to UF or he'll be a third option because there's a lot of schools that will want him to be their number one guy. He wanted to come in here, have a chance to play for Billy Napier in this offense. And honestly, he is so good that I think it's reasonable to expect that he will be drafted, even though he is our third string running back. But Florida's not done there. That's how deep this running back room is. They have Treyon Webb who's coming in. He is a freshman. He's the only running back we took in 2023. I don't think that he'll see significant playing time at running back just because of the depth of the room. But I think there's a chance that he could play a little bit and contribute on special teams. He was a star recruiter for the 2023 class. Just kind of picture him as like the DJ Lagway of that class. He was a 4-star guy. He is at a Trinity Christian Academy in Jacksonville. So he grew up very close to Gainesville, is a Gator, and somebody that could have an impact as a freshman, and at the very least is going to really learn from being in that deep running back room. This is a guy that would probably play at start as a freshman and a lot of programs. All right, so why is the running back room so disrespected? We talked about how stacked and loaded it is. So why are we seeing it and the general public is not? The national media is not. I honestly think that it's because Florida's offense in general is such a question mark. Nobody really knows what to expect out of Graham Mertz, and I think that the national media expects Florida's offensive line to take a step back because of the loss of Torrance and others. But as we talked about in the beginning of this video, the good news about that is that UF insiders and Billy Napier himself actually think the exact opposite is true. While UF might not have a single player as dominant as Osiris Torrance, the offensive line should actually be much, much deeper this season, barring injuries. That consistent blocking that a deep offensive line should provide will allow UF stables of running backs to shine. All right, last season, Johnson and Etienne were splitting reps with Anthony Richardson, who was a true dual threat quarterback. This season, the Gators are going to rely more heavily on a ground and pound type running game. And that should allow Graham Mertz to be a game manager, which is something we've also talked about on this channel a ton. That should open up the passing game and allow us to utilize all of our young wide receiver talent. I don't know about you, but I am jacked to see these guys this upcoming season. I will stand by my take that we have the best running back duo in the SEC. And honestly, it's not particularly close. We've been getting a ton of rivals in the comments who have been upset about my last few videos, but I'm happy to hear from you all if you think your team has a better duo. Let's chat about it. We mentioned Graham Mertz and the impact that he will have on our running game. I've got a take on Graham that a lot of people may not agree with. You want to check it out? Click right here.